Yeah. So, well, like, yeah, the talking about who do we have access to on our phone that if we did a random hip hop survey or just a random like pop culture survey, who is the most famous person that we could text that we get a response back? And so, like, one time I did, we were talking about like, do black men swim?
Mm.
And like I didn't learn till like fourth grade. My dad doesn't know how to swim.
Yeah, I'm not a good swimmer.
You're not a good
It
swimmer.
is, yeah, it is what it is.
So I texted everybody from like Master Ace to Tajay to Chip Fu, and a bunch of different ones, and asked them if they swam. And the ones who have traveled more
Yep.
can swim,
Yeah.
or the ones who grew up as islanders can swim.
Yep.
A lot of the inner city cats don't swim.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it was,
I have friends who like grew up in Inglewood, for instance.
yeah,
And they're like, yeah, we didn't really go to the beach until,
yeah,
walking around at Venice, and still it wasn't even like
yeah.
a thing. And then yeah, swimming pools, like, we were always after the empty ones. So
Right, for a different reason.
Yeah.
So, like, if you texted Russell Simmons right now, because I know we're talking about that you connected with him, and asked him like a random Beastie Boys trivia question, you think he'd respond?
Judging by the past, he might respond. Yeah.
He might respond?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, shit.
Yeah, it's a trip. But I mean, like at this point, it was a couple years ago that we were connected
Right.
and whatnot. But
He'd probably still remember your name, though.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Like we were talking and texting and like for a while about music stuff.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Look at it. We're just in here. I'm in here with my man, DJ Drez. And we go back. He's probably one of my most favorite roommates to tour with.
Oh, that's easy, man. Absolutely, hands down.
And this is season 2 of Art to Empire Radio, episode 1. So we're going to get in this intro, and then we're going to get into this man's life, legacy, career, focusing on how he's turned his art and arts into career. Yeah.
I turned my art into an empire. I turned my art into an empire. I turned my art into an empire. I turned my art into an
Uncle Dad's
empire.
Multiverse.
I turned my art into an empire.
Yes.
I turned my art into an empire. I turned my art into an empire. I turned my art into an empire.
The podcast is here to unearth the clues to share gems, wisdom from those who pay dues, to the kings and queens behind the scenes who've done the work, planted seeds, and built the dream. Art to Empire, desire for autonomy, dropping tricks of the trade for all of us to peep. Don't sleep, wake up to find this knowledge on top, edutainment at its finest. Lo and behold, unfold the hidden scroll. It's time to shed the light on the stories untold. This podcast is old, we speak the truth. Each one teach one is the good power you. Buku, one step beyond the host. Director of the vibes with a gang of jokes. Tune in, tell a friend, share the wealth of game. Take notes, each word spoke, release the chains. Free up the brain with ideas galore. So many career hacks, mentors to explore. Free up the brain with ideas galore. So many career hacks, mentors to explore for sure.
I turned my art
Art to Empire Radio.
I turned my art into an empire. I turned my art
Yes,
into an
indeed.
empire. I turned my art into an empire. I turned my
Yeah. Every good podcast should have a good intro song, and if you can make it yourself, it's even better, right?
Yeah, man.
And being a big special ed fan, how could I have? I mean, that's been in my brain from day one.
Man, special ed should be part of the in the regular conversation of hip hop and influence.
Yes.
And he's not as
No.
much as he should be. I was thinking about that the other day, about the producers that are the same couple producers that are talked about over
Right.
and over and over. And with all respect, do they deserve it? And there are just others that
Right.
are so influential.
Right.
Like whatever, large professor or whatever. I say that
I
because
was-
like it was his
yeah.
birthday yesterday or something.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
There's
Or-
two of them. Who was it? Was it Large Professor and Premier? There was two dope
oh,
producers on
really?
the same birthday I
word.
saw on the post.
But and not only that, but I just got to say this: Diggable Planets
Yeah.
has some of the most beautifully produced records that aren't talked about, and
Yeah.
and that's just weird to me.
So who was
So-
the producer? Was it Butterfly?
I'm assuming Butterfly, but I don't know. I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. Well, look, check it out. We here. We could talk about so many things for so long, but we're gonna do our best to hone in on sharing the gems and insights from my man DJ Drez and his career as an artist, because it's woven in so many different lanes. I met him over here deep in the hip hop, and he was part of what I call the big homies. Because when I came into the game as a tour manager, young rapper, like when I was with Drez and AC Alone and Abstract Rude, I was the young homie.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
my skill was driving and making sure everybody got there safe, and I was honing my rap skills and all that stuff. I wasn't even producing back then. So, we watched each other get some grays. We got some gray, got some hair, got some kids.
Yep.
So let's set it off, man. Introduce yourself.
My name is DJ Drez. Some people call me Dr. Easy, and I've been DJing a while. It's interesting. Like it's 2023. I DJed my first club in '93, so that's
Wow.
30 years ago. It's kind of crazy to think about it that
Yeah.
way.
Yep.
Because just a little side note. It made me think of this Quincy Jones quote that I heard not too long ago, and it's something like, "In every 60-year-old is a 20-year-old thinking, how did I get here?"
Right.
And mind you, I'm not
Yeah.
60, but not yet. But it's a trip. So
Yeah.
starting DJing in probably, I don't know, 91 or 90. Like, and what I mean is, mixtapes
Right.
and stuff like that.
Okay.
But yeah, then stepped into touring the world with rappers
Right.
and bands and all that. And yeah.
We'll get into that. Okay, so then it's safe to say I'm gonna ask you this question anyways because of what I do. So, what art or art forms are your business?
Wow. Yeah. So music is number one.
Right.
Straight up. And so that's both touring, like
Right.
showing up live to whatever venue it is, and music production. So putting out records. And I'm still making mixes.
Right.
They're not on tape, but yeah, I'm making the digital mixtapes, and so those are the main things.
Right.
But
So that's DJing and production.
Yep,
Okay.
DJing and production, and I also I don't promote this side of my art,
Right.
but I still will sell paintings, specifically like canvases,
Right.
the occasional print or something like that.
Right. Okay.
And sometimes I'm commissioned for random art.
Right. Okay.
Stuff.
Cool.
Yeah,
So you got the audio visual still,
I do.
and you've found ways to commodify both of those. Okay.
Yeah.
So, how long ago was it when you first thought that maybe these skills of DJing or art or visual art could actually be a career? Like, when did you start thinking that way?
I would say in high school, the drive started of wanting to live in a different way than the examples that I had. So
Right.
the people around me, I'm the youngest of 5 kids, and I saw them going their routes, which was not really anywhere at that time. And then, my pop died when I was 10, so
Right,
that,
right.
and so that wasn't really a factor in influence. And then watching my mom just work. I was just thinking, like, there's got to be another way.
Right.
And my biggest influence was hip hop. And my biggest teacher was hip hop. It was MCs, and it was, yes, it was them, but it was more about what they were talking about,
Right.
and not only what they were talking about, but how they were doing it, and not just the MCs, but the whole thing.
Right.
And I felt like I could hone in on the skill
Right.
of making music, DJing, all that, and so I did. Is that what you asked? You know, sorry.
Hey,
There's gonna be a lot of
we live in the kitchen, so anything, everything's going
Yeah.
around. Look behind you. Yeah. No, we do this podcast in the kitchen. We got, my wife, Yoda Mitchell, YBK, in there trying to be as graceful as she can, pouring coffee. But
Yeah,
it
it's
kind of
good,
adds
it's
like a
good.
backdrop. It's a
It's
little
great.
vibe.
No, I appreciate it. A little cafe vibe.
Yeah, the
It's
best
good.
part of waking up.
Yeah, that's
So,
right.
so no, yes, that's what I asked you. But so basically in high school, you started thinking like maybe I can actually like turn some of this love for hip hop into like a viable money making life.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I felt like that was the option because part of listening to hip hop for me, and specifically, there's so many subgenres or
Right.
so many pieces of hip hop that you could call hip hop, and so much of it isn't really hip hop. Like,
Right.
Not even close to it when you get into it. But for me, the strongest part of hip hop at that time was the knowledge, the wisdom, and the understanding.
Right.
And one of the biggest things that I was learning is how much that I was being lied to, just as a human being across the board.
Right.
And already I had issues with school, and I wasn't a bad kid or anything like that. But I mean, I would probably definitely, if it was nowadays or whatever, be labeled some kind of ADHD or whatever.
Right. Right.
With that being said, my eyes were also very open, and I was very interested in learning. But like, so many teachers are just going through the motions,
Yep.
and they're
Yep.
assholes. Like
Yep.
a lot of them, unfortunately, in my experience
Mm-hmm.
at that time. And so the combination of learning all these life tools, and not only that, but the beautiful skills of hip hop and just the art of it, I was just drawn in spiritually and through the wisdom also, that all the directions that the MCs pointed to.
Right.
Look to the east for this. Look to that. Look to this and the sciences and the eat better and the
Right,
take
right,
care of
right.
yourself and all
Beef,
that.
what
and
a relief.
Yeah, all that. Just like, there's a Jungle Brothers quote. Oh man, I'm not even going down
Right,
that road.
right,
It's so
right.
yeah. But it was music of the movement.
Right.
And within hip hop, you have movement music.
Right.
Partridge Teachers, X Clan.
Yeah.
Brand Nubian, Arrested Development, and so on.
Right.
And Jungle Brothers, like, that was molding me, and I was like, okay, not only are these teachers, I'm not vibing with them, and school wasn't great for me, that form of like regular public school, I dropped out, and I'm not proud of it, and I'm not ashamed of it. It just is what it is.
Right.
And I wanted to learn things that were the truth or closer to it than what there was.
Right.
And that just like, okay, I'm going to jump in spiritually and musically, and I am going to make this. First of all, it's my dream.
Right.
Like, I'm watching Yo MTV Raps. I know what it feels like to paint a wall. I know what it feels like to be in a dance circle.
Right. Right.
And then I was knowing what it was like to be on the turntables,
Right.
and be in ciphers and all that with MCs. And I made it a point. I made it an agreement at the time, I didn't know I was making the agreement, but it's very clear looking back that I was making an agreement that I would live my dreams and I would manifest and that I would make this happen. And I kind of did it in a way where I made it so I didn't have another choice.
Right.
Because
Right,
partially,
okay.
the other thing is this, I didn't have another choice.
Right.
My mom worked too much
Right.
to kind of like hold it down. I was able to slip through the cracks.
Right.
And she didn't even know that I wasn't going for however long.
Right.
And but I was focused on music. I was focused on art. I practiced these things every single day.
Right. So there wasn't really like a aha moment. I can actually make money off of this that I love. It's more like, this is just the way of life. I have to do this. I have to figure out a way to weave this conscious commerce, like what this culture has given me. I have to figure out a way to make a living being immersed and contributing to this.
That's
Okay.
that's it. There was definitely no aha moment.
Right. So there was okay. Well, there goes.
Not at that time.
Right.
Yeah.
So okay. It's basically been a business from the day after you started really getting into it, because that became your way. That was your pathway. That was
It's been hard work and effort.
Okay.
Like it's been work.
Right.
Straight up.
So what was your first paid gig where you were like, ugh, I got paid to do it?
Yeah. I don't know if this was you know what? The first paid gigs were, and this is even before I had 2 turntables.
Right.
I had a tape deck and an old belt drive turntable, and I saved up enough to get the whatever $100 mixer from Radio Shack,
Right.
the classic one that everyone got. I made mixtapes, and my first thing where I ever actually made money was selling a tape for like $5 or $10.
Right.
And that was a big deal. Just like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Like, and then, continued to do that, and then started doing some house parties, and still it wasn't a lot. It might be $20, it might be $40.
Right.
it
I
might
mean,
be
but it was
50.
back in the 70s, so you
No,
know.
yeah. No, okay, so to be clear, we're talking around between 90 and 93 before I DJ'd my first club.
Right. Okay.
And
so it wasn't the 70s.
Nah, man. I was born in 1975. I'm 47 years old.
Okay.
And so I was 15 in 1990. And so that time surrounding that, like 88 through 93,
Yeah.
let's say, the golden age and era of knowledge in hip hop and
Right.
and loving yourself and
Right. And okay. Yeah. So 90s. Yeah. I mean, just describe that feeling. I want you to go a little bit more into that feeling of like when you started, maybe not the very first time you made some money, but like after a while when it set in, like, dude, like I can actually weave this into something like monetarily where it's actually going to sustain my life. Like, what did that feel like?
That felt it felt gratifying. It felt like, I've worked hard enough
Right.
and I'm dope enough. Like I've honed in the skill
Right.
of DJing specifically, because through most of the 90s it was straight up DJing. It wasn't
Right.
I didn't get my MPC 2000 until like 98.
Right. Right.
And then, I had to hone that in before I started really making albums and beats for
Right.
people and all that type of
Right.
stuff. So it was gratifying. It felt deserved. I still knew I knew that I had dues to pay.
Mm-hmm.
And I also felt like this is right. This is right for me.
Right.
I should be getting paid.
Right.
And
Right.
you know what I'm saying?
That's kind of like
'Cause,
a big first thing is like,
that's
I should get paid.
That's part of it.
Yeah.
It's like acknowledging your worth is
Right.
such a big deal. And that
Yeah.
is something, especially if you're I was going to say, especially if you're your own boss.
Right.
But I think period, like across the board,
Yeah.
working for someone, whatever your mode is of navigating
Right.
life, knowing your worth is really, really important.
Yeah.
And what I mean is also is knowing when you're not quite up to par also.
Right.
And that you have a lot to learn.
Being honest with yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, to be honest with yourself and to acknowledge those that you could learn from and situations. And like that's crucial, I think.
Yeah. And, when it comes to knowing your worth, and you said a few really key things that tie into knowing your worth, you said, I put in the work. I became a dope DJ. Like, I was aware of my skill due to the time I put in. Therefore, I know my worth, and I went through. And one of the important things to me is some people, when you hear know your worth, they just put their worth as some abstract value that they want.
Yeah.
And not balance it out with, well, have you put in the work to earn that value?
Yep.
So like you put it in sequential order without even thinking about it. It's like, I put the time in.
Mm-hmm.
I developed the skill. Therefore, I knew my value.
Yeah.
'Cause I knew what I put in and I knew where I'm at.
Yeah.
And then still was like, I still need to pay dues though.
Mm-hmm.
So what was a tough lesson you learned? One of the earliest tough lessons you learned about navigating your art and business intertwined?
Jeez, where to start? It's funny because that's more of a felt. Like I could feel it as you asked the question. Like I could feel what that feels like. Explaining it might not be as easy.
Okay, well,
But-
what does a tough lesson feel like? What is,
It feels disappointing. Like like disappointed in myself for maybe not standing up for myself, which happened
yeah,
plenty because I was often the younger dude.
Right.
And like, yeah, I mean, I put myself in the position because of skill and taste
right,
to play with OGs, like people who are already killing it, people who were 7 to 10 years older than me,
Right.
like, and I felt when I was being let down, if I wasn't being paid enough, I knew very much from every MC, if you're listening to this, yeah, I'm talking to you.
right,
You know,
right.
everybody who paid me,
Yeah.
like $100 for that show when you got a G or whatever
Right,
for it, or
right,
like,
right.
you know what I'm saying? Like I don't live at home. I pay rent. Like,
Right, right.
I got, my girl's tripping. Like,
right. She's not happy with what you came home
yeah,
with.
man, yeah. So I dealt with those things, but I also knew that I did acknowledge that what I was learning from these situations
Right.
and that I was still okay in my situation. Like
Right.
I wasn't in a place where I'm going to be sleeping on the street.
Right.
Like some of the other homies in their situations.
right.
Like
Yeah,
I wasn't there. So I was like, okay, I'll put up with this as
Right.
long as I could.
Until further,
And to be clear, it wasn't just putting up with, because there's so much
Right.
love and art and beautiful experiences
Right.
had. But there was enough times where it was just like, oh yeah, like I'm being walked on right
I'm
now.
fully aware. You're right.
Yeah, I'm very aware of this.
Right. And it's a trip going from, man, this is an amazing opportunity just to be out here doing this, and I'm just stoked to get paid, to like, yeah, I mean, at some point I'm probably going to want a little bit more, to being like, yeah, no, I actually fully aware that I'm not getting paid what I,
Yep.
because there's so like, especially like, with touring and shows, like there's so much non-monetary currency that we're receiving
Straight up.
from performing, the travel, the stage, the cultivation, the contribution of the culture. So
Yeah.
when you first get in, it's very hard to see past that or to embrace that, but then still be like, yeah, but this is business. Like people are making money, and so me being the tour manager, where let's say like I'm the tour manager, the opener guy, you're DJing for the headliner guys, and we're all in the same pool, and I'm seeing these different angles, and then later on I become the manager of the headliner guy, who then brings on my DJ to be their DJ, and then I have to figure out how to pay, and whoop-de-whoop, and I try to do my best to pay fair. But so when you're talking to the rappers, what you're saying is like, yes, like there's this facade, if they're not careful, that MC is the most important person. Everything else is just a light. Like, it's just to accentuate. I mean, I could do the show without you, but I really want you because I think you're my,
Yep.
And so what I've said to my friends who are DJs, even my DJ, when he's having a moment where he was like, like I feel like I should be getting paid more. And what I learned to help quantify it for them in a fair way is like, if you could be making more money DJing to where you can't be here, we have to pay you more.
Word.
And it wasn't like kick rocks if you don't like it, but it's like, no, I know your value, and I believe you deserve whatever you can get.
Yep.
So if you feel this is holding you down, like off the record, because it's not my best interest as I'm managing the headliner to tell the DJ to go do something else to create value, but
For sure,
but being able to say like, no, I understand. Like, this is what we've allotted. But if you have other work and you get so busy that we can't afford you this way, then we have to pay you what you want because you are so valuable to this show.
Yeah. Yeah, I to acknowledge, like, geez, there's just so much within this conversation, my Lord. I'm not speaking about anyone specifically. I'm talking about across the board of people who I worked with. My mind is exploding with just thoughts, because it's not there's emotion like wrapped up in it, and how all this stuff feels. I'm literally drawing a blank because of
Well,
it's. What was your actual question?
right. I know.
Yeah.
So what I asked. What was a tough lesson you learned? See, it just went.
Oh, okay,
How did it feel? And then it went through that. And so, but like if you can encapsulate like just one valuable tough lesson, like one tough love lesson you learned early that really helped, like go, I need to move. Lesson learned. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's interesting. Like I think of specific things, like situations like, oh, I messed up. Like, I was at the House of Blues DJing with KRS-One. And
oh, you're thinking like from a DJ standpoint, like I missed a cue, or
like the record was skipping. Like the record, like
Hey, that's a tough lesson.
Like I DJ with KRS-One.
Yeah.
At the House of Blues, he asked me to play with him.
Yeah.
And he was like, play something really slow.
Right.
I'm saying this because this sticks out as like this is a bad memory right here.
Right.
He was like, play something really slow, and for me, slow is slow,
like 60s.
Because I come from a crew of stylers.
Right.
You know what I
Like
mean?
choppers
People who
and
could
shit.
choppers.
Yeah.
Shout out to Project Blow.
Yeah.
So, but like people who do their thing and it could really flip, and I know that he's dope. Like, I know that he
he's top qualified. He's got range. Yeah.
So I was playing something really slow, and I
Right.
was doing it a creative way. I had 2 different records that were both really slow,
Right.
and I was flipping back and forth, but one of them had a breakdown, and I feel like in the middle of that breakdown there was a little skip. So when it would come back in, it would come off beat.
Oh, like
So
a little
he
hitch
thought-
in his giddy up.
So he, but he didn't.
So wait, are you blaming the record?
I'm absolutely blaming the record, because I know how to get a skip out a little quick, with the nail, rub the record, or spin it real fast or forward. Whatever.
Right.
But it wasn't going out, and I couldn't. I didn't save it.
Right.
And later, there was a studio session, and with another artist, and he was the one who had put it together. KRS-One did.
Right.
And he was like, he played with me before, and he didn't know where the 1 was. And it's just like, what?
Oh, he
Do
hit
you
you with
see?
that.
Like, first of all, you saw how dope I was. That's why you asked me to play with you. Like, and that I'm killing it with MCs.
Yeah.
Like, I hold myself high as a
Yeah.
DJ who plays with MCs.
Right.
Like, I do.
You're the
'cause
back end band. Like you actually DJ in a way that accentuates and gives space.
I know what to do.
Yeah,
I know what to do. I've sat in randomly with, some of the top.
Yeah.
And so for him to say he doesn't know because of that record skipping,
Right,
he
right.
thought, and I was just like, "Urgh." Like it made me mad and also so disappointed. Like, dude, come on. man.
Right. He
Like,
hit you in that
spot.
spot.
And he didn't say it to me. It was something that I heard from somebody else. It was just
Which
like,
means that it was coming off his lips to other people.
Yeah, it's just like, man.
So what's the
come
lesson
on.
in that?
So the lesson is if it happens once, don't let it happen again.
All right.
That's it's like straight up.
That's a good lesson.
There's certain things that you don't like. There's a way to avoid that,
Right.
and find it, find that way.
Right.
Like that's my thing. Is like if there's a problem, you fix it right away. You don't throw your arms up and say, like, oh, sorry, everybody, whatever. You fix it right away.
Right.
That's maybe doing the beat with your hand instead. If he keeps rapping,
Right.
and you know there's a skip.
You know there's that
You just
spot.
go boom, 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 boom. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
You don't let that record keep spinning.
Right. Okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah, and then I mean, there's
Yeah.
been so many situations of like, the mixer, there's an issue, or the needles, or
Right.
Serato. Jeez, like the whole digital computer situation.
Transition.
I've ran into so many issues.
Right.
I'll share. This is just a quick little side note.
Yeah.
I was DJing one of these color throw festivals where they
Right.
throw all the colors in the air.
Yep.
And so I was playing this huge one, thousands of people
Yeah.
out in the crowd, and as if it's not difficult enough to have all this stuff going on your
Right.
equipment. There was the stage wasn't covered, and it was hot.
Oh.
This is in
yeah.
Utah.
Yeah.
Computer completely dies.
Yeah. It's overheated.
What do? I'm the DJ.
Right.
There's a drum kit over there. There's a band coming on after us.
Right.
I was like, yo, anybody got sticks? I jumped on the drum kit, and we
just-
finished
just started beating?
we had about half an hour left in the set, and
Yeah.
some dude with a bass jumped up, and we like
Just
straight up.
is what did it.
There's another show. There's another show. The equipment wasn't there.
Yeah.
Oh, I was like, we had a contract and
Right.
a rider, the whole thing. But I'm not gonna say, oh, I can't do the show.
Right. Right.
I saw Jimbei on stage, and I was like, hey, you guys got the little link up to the phone, so because I had a drum machine on my phone.
Right.
So between the djembe and playing drum beats on my phone, we did a show.
Right. You're able to freak
Like
it.
I did my show, you didn't follow up, but so we still get paid proper.
Right. Exactly.
mean?
You didn't
Like,
do it. Yeah.
That is one of the biggest lessons: is the show must go on
Right.
in the most graceful way possible.
Right. So that ties into my next question. Like, what are 3 main skills that have been the most helpful in navigating this business with your art?
And I'm going to start with the hardest one.
Right.
The hardest one is to not take things personal.
Right.
And which this takes me back. This is something I meant to say about the conversation about the MCs and getting paid.
Right,
And knowing your worth is looking back more than ever, because I eventually stepped away from working under people so much. I still work with people, and I know when to lead and when to follow. Like, it's
Right.
all good.
Right.
With that being said, looking back more than ever, I understand that they were running their empire, and that it's not always evident or just obvious that how much money is needed to do so. So I acknowledge that with all the homies who
Right.
who didn't always pay proper.
Right.
Like, I acknowledge they had an empire to run.
Right.
Like, and I was in a supporting role.
Right.
And I learned a lot from that.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I didn't take it that personal then. I think if I did, I wouldn't have done it for so long. And to be clear, also, it wasn't all bad. Like, it's I loved it. My years of playing with the various MCs and bands and stuff.
But it's, I mean, I'm gonna interject. It's important to share the grit. Like this podcast is really, it's not about gloss.
Yeah.
So I mean, we want to give thanks and put in the frame of concept that you're saying. Like we wouldn't have been doing or be doing this if it wasn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's some shit.
Yeah. So yeah, and to acknowledge that,
Yeah.
like the good always outweighed the bad.
Yeah.
It did. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it.
Right.
Like
Exactly.
I love what I do, and I have loved what I've done.
Right.
Like, and I respect it, and
Right.
I think of it highly, and anybody I don't have any hard feelings about anybody.
Right.
Like straight up, like I don't.
Right.
I mean,
So that's not taking it personal.
so
That's
don't
one.
not
Yeah.
taking things personal is a big deal. It's very
It's
hard.
tough.
It's
Yeah.
very tough, and it is a very special tool to use navigating just everyday life.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a big one.
So that's a big one. Sorry, what were you saying? The other tool?
That's it. What are the other two tools? So while you're thinking of the other two, tools that have helped you navigate this life.
There we
right?
go, yeah,
So the one is don't take anything personal. And just on a funny tip on that one, I've actually had an artist that I was managing at one point in time try to convince me that I should stop rapping and just focus on managing him because I'm okay as a rapper, but I'm way better as a manager. And we could get a lot further faster if we did that.
Yeah.
It's hard to not take that personal.
Yeah,
but,
absolutely. Absolutely. I feel that. Here's what I'm sure that person didn't understand.
Right.
Is what made you so great as a manager
Right.
for that person is that you had the patience and the artistry in your life that brought you joy and skill and
Right.
and patience to deal with somebody like that.
Exactly.
Somebody without those outlets
Yeah.
don't last that long.
No. I tell people
Yeah.
if I didn't get to open, I probably wouldn't have tour managed much more than like a couple times.
Word. Yeah.
Like you have to find a way to nourish and replenish so you have the cachet to deal with.
Look, I've had the pleasure and honor of touring with you many times. Like, when we're touring, we become roommates.
Yeah.
Like straight up.
Yeah.
And there's the good managing,
Right.
which is great and important. Like show up on time, get
Right,
get
make
paid,
sure.
all that
Right,
real
right.
stuff. But a big part of it that may not be obvious to people is the vibration that you bring. Like, and I'm talking about you, but I'm also talking about in general.
Right.
Being positive, knowing that, acknowledging that there is a way, there is hope, and there's a way to do it without everybody, whatever, getting in a fight
Right,
or
right.
whatever. Because
Being hella tight.
I've seen the other version,
Right,
the other
right.
version of a tour manager.
Right.
And yeah, so there that is.
So that's a big number one. All right.
That's a big number one.
Other two tough lessons.
Or tools. No, tools,
Tool-
right?
Yep. Tools.
Sorry, tools to navigate life?
No.
To
The
navigate.
three main skills
Oh.
that have been most helpful in navigating business. See, just so you know, guys, who you're listening right now, like me and Drez have so much interwoven in our lives, personally, spiritually, business-wise. I mean, Drez has been a big part of my formative years of everything I do now. So the conversation is weaving in a lot of these things, and we're doing our best to hone it, but it's got to breathe.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
No, yeah, I appreciate that. I don't really function that well. I know there's like an academic way of speaking without emotion. And
Yeah,
whatnot,
nah, we
and
ain't
that's
about
not
that.
me. That's not me. So
So three main skills. You gave me the first one. It's big
yeah,
lug.
Yeah, don't try not to take it. Or yeah, don't take anything personal. Navigating business.
Yeah, because this is what this is. Three main skills in navigating your art empire. You're turning,
Yeah,
as
I
you-
think time to replenish. So whatever, if that's like meditation is a tool.
Right.
Mantra, like that word mantra, it's actually man in tra. It's like to
parts.
make it up, and it's mantra means mind tool. Mantra is something that I do,
Right.
and because yoga is a big part of my life. So for me, it's Sanskrit mantra.
Right.
But with that being said, if you have something that you make up, that's important.
Right.
Meditation, like
Yeah.
that gives you space to see things clearly.
Right.
The ability to step back and breathe before you go.
Right. Which is hell of important, because if you're in the wrong space and you're trying to deal with business and someone rubs you in a way you deem
Yeah.
not cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. Like in my situation, I'm someone who's like literally on stage.
Right.
So I can't let a situation, I can't let it show.
Right.
I think it's whack when people like show up and all pissed off and yelling at sound man and
Yeah.
being, like that's whack. That's,
Far too
that's
common.
not what.
Far too
That's
common.
not why we're here.
Yelling
We-
at soundmen. That's
Yeah.
those are just your best ally for a good show. Man,
That should be
and,
it.
I'm sure it happens in other genres, but boy, in hip hop,
Yeah,
God, man,
yeah.
everything's the soundman's fault.
Yep.
So yeah, just
Yep.
having that replenishment, and what you spoke on even before I asked this question is a great skill, and that's the ability to improvise. The show must go on.
Yeah.
So having the ability and the tools and the wherewithal to be like, regardless, you got to be resourceful.
Yeah, I plan to improvise.
Right.
I guess in other words, I just being in the moment is so important.
Right.
And I think that probably goes back to what is obtained or what you learn from meditating.
Right.
Yeah. And then the third, I'm trying to think of.
Yeah. I mean, that's three
so,
right there.
I mean,
But-
did I say three? Oh yeah. I mean,
Yeah, because I
feel
wove
like
it
the
back
second-
in. I
yeah,
picked
yeah.
up the nugget from before, but not taking things personal. Finding ways to replenish, to step out, to meditate, find your mantra, and then all the other one was, just being versatile, being ready for it all. The show must go on. Just being
Yeah.
equipped. So, I mean, those are versatility.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the more tools you have in your chest, the better you're able to navigate when things go wrong.
Straight up.
Like back there was a show, probably one of our tours. I think I was opening in the Wild Duck in Eugene, Oregon.
Wow.
And I had my mini disc. I was still using the mini disc.
Yep.
And my mini disc locked up, like it just wouldn't play. And I had my 15 minutes. And so a big part of my set was stand-up comedy, and the other part was some acapella verses,
There it is.
But, otherwise, if Drez was there, you hear the cue in the back and you just get into it, but you got to be ready, right? You got to feel like whatever happens, I'm still putting on a show. Like
Yeah.
some form of show. If I had my skateboard, I would be skating on stage.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, okay. What do you think some of the biggest misconceptions are about turning your art into a business?
That it's easy.
Right.
That it's that you're gonna love it. That
Right.
it's that the idea, if you've what is that saying? If you do what you love, you've never worked a day in your life. That's not true, even close.
Right.
Whoever wrote that is just.
Yeah. They
was-
say that way after they've done working, but they will never say that.
Yeah. It's just that's not true. I
Right.
work very hard.
Right.
And it's sometimes it flows from me. Sometimes
Right.
it does. I'm not going to not acknowledge that. I'm so grateful.
Right.
And with that being said, so much of it is real work and
Right.
effort. What you hear, what you see me do on stage is years and years and years of doing it over and over and over and over again.
Right.
And what you hear on a record is just the version that you heard. Like music, is often like photography. That picture you saw, there was probably 10 to 100.
Right.
You know,
Trying to capture that.
yeah,
Right.
Yeah. That skateboard trick that you saw in that video.
Right.
Like, you
Right.
know, there's bound to be 3 to 15 times where they fell before they,
at
you know.
least.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
And, yeah, what was it? See,
Nah,
that's
you
the thing
good,
with
you
me
good.
is like, all this is they're deep, it's deep feeling for me.
Yeah.
Because I do love this. I truly love it.
Yeah.
And, so, and for me, the feelings, because they're so deep and because I'm a spiritual creature.
Right.
Like, I don't often find, a way to define or explain it
Right.
verbally so well. And that's one of the reasons why I'm a DJ. Like,
Right. Yeah. Speak with my hands.
Hey, where
Conduct energy through sound.
where words fail, music speaks.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, and it is hard to compress a plethora of 30 years of experience, joy, challenges, and a nice, sweet bite size. But we try. We're going to do it. But
Yeah,
it is not. But this is cool. Like, it's my part. My desire with this podcast is to show the nuance, the pain, the struggle, the joy of the relationship between art and business. It's a very difficult one.
Yeah.
And it takes a while to get harmony, and sometimes people never find harmony in it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I know plenty of people are just like, it's, they started it, you know, whether it's a clothing line or, you know, there's various forms of doing art.
Yeah.
And as a business, music, whatever, that they get turned off by it because the business side of it is regular business.
Yeah.
The business side is not artistic.
Yeah.
Getting back to people in emails and tech writers and all that stuff, there's nothing.
Not shit most artists like to do.
Yeah.
Thus, Tion always had a job.
Word.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
exactly.
it's,
So-
you know, like you're saying, it's like I always use the analogy of, you know, a chef. So let's say you're a chef and you're at a restaurant. You just love to cook. So you've been at this restaurant for so long that the customers know you. And they be like, man, I come for you. I come for what you cook. And then you get this bright idea because your homies have been gassing you and you're kind of like, man, I could run my own. People come for me. Then you start your own restaurant.
Yep.
Now all of a sudden, you're a chef, sure. But now you might be the one accountant. You might be the one going to get new straws and napkins. You might be the one paying the bills and signing the lease and getting the insurance and staffing the place and managing the, you know, all of a sudden you take a pie and maybe your pie was 80% cooking at the restaurant you were working at. Now, if your own restaurant, cooking is probably not as much as it was.
Yep.
And that can be a drag. Like, you know, that's very disheartening if you didn't go in with that understanding of it. You might have just been like, I should have just stayed at this restaurant.
Yeah.
All I got to do is show up and cook.
Yeah, right. There's been times where I fantasize about being like, this was even before Uber or whatever. I've
Right.
seen myself like, you know, like as a flossy like driver.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or like, because I enjoy to drive. I enjoy driving.
yeah.
You know, we
I
would
mean,
switch
shit,
off
hey,
driving in tours and all that.
Exactly.
So
I do Uber on the side just partly because I like driving.
word.
Yeah.
That's like, there's a special thing in that.
Yeah.
Not only that, like you could play music and
dude.
you know.
Yeah.
And but just speaking to and getting the experience of a diverse range of people is interesting. It's an interesting part of life. Or I've even you know, fantasized about bagging groceries at like Trader Joe's or
Right.
something. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Not that I really want to do that, but it's also not bad either.
Yeah.
Because like, you know, I've not always, I'm quiet often, but if you ask the right question or in the right way, we start talking. And
Right.
I've had some really cool, interesting conversations just with people bagging groceries.
Oh yeah. Hey, yo.
It's funny.
Oh yeah. Go ahead.
No, I'm just making. I think it's funny just that I'm even talking about that.
No,
But
that's real.
I was trying to think of another misconception. I think the big thing is that you're not working,
Right.
and that music business, those words don't really go together.
Right, right.
Like they really don't. And it truly is a separate thing. So you got to be able to do both.
Right, different lanes.
I mean,
yeah,
the skill of just returning an email
yeah,
or returning a call is crucial. It is such a big deal.
yeah.
I mean, damn, getting back to people on social media, like that's really important.
Yep.
And I still find messages like, how did I miss that?
Right.
Like,
right.
dang.
Yeah. Yeah. So even like assembling a team, so that way, if you just want to be primarily the music person, you have a team that can help with the other things. But I tell people, like, when you're independent, if you don't have a manager, guess who's the manager?
Yep.
Like you.
Straight up.
If you don't have a marketing machine, guess who's the marketing machine? If you don't have a PR person and it's like,
Yeah.
so that's where we start, and then we build if we can. But when you're talking about groceries, I wanted to big up my man Teddy over at Trader Joe's on Oak Grove. He's like a super Ross, like real happy white
word.
dude. Yeah,
Okay.
he's like, he loves reggae music and Disney. Like him and his wife go to Disneyland all the time and go to reggae shows.
That's so funny because those two feel so far apart.
I was impressed.
It's
but,
great.
But tying back into like the fantasizing of other jobs or different things, because part of it is because when you run your own business, there's so many moving parts all the time, and it doesn't stop.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really. It's hard to take a break because things are happening, and God forbid if things are really happening, you really don't want to take a stop because things are really happening, and it's like, where you see somebody who's like, man, that person who's just working the groceries, they just show up, they bag groceries, they greet people, and then they leave their work and they go home and they can.
And that's really what I'm talking about. It's set for them.
Yeah.
Like they have a set thing that
Yeah.
they do. It's done. Their time off is their time off. The
Mm-hmm.
weekend when they get off work,
Yeah.
whatever. Like for me, it doesn't stop.
Yeah.
Like, and it's really interesting because I heard of people years ago that when they went on vacation, they didn't know how to relax and stuff like that.
Dude, that's
I heard of that, and I was just like,
Yeah.
how is that a thing? Like, just you go and you cool out and whatever.
Yeah.
But I realized, some years ago, however long it's been, that I had the realization I'm one of those people now.
Yeah.
Because, first of all, for me, art doesn't stop.
Right.
I can't help but to see everything like that there is to see in life.
Right.
Whether it's the way the water created this mark on the sidewalk, or
Right.
this peeling paint of this old door, or
Right.
not to mention all the actual art, not to mention all the art of nature,
Right.
and people, and like I am inspired and obsessed by art and creating it,
Right.
and the art of life. I am not just talking about obvious things.
Right. Right.
And the abstractness of our existence.
Right.
And so, man, something like a mind-body discipline to balance that out.
Right.
And that could just be something fun, whether it's skateboarding or
Right.
whatever your thing is. Going
Like your
to,
non-business related.
yeah, going to the gym, taking a run, whatever, gets you in a zone. Like you need that. You got to
Yeah.
have something that balances out. Like I have a desire to create and to keep going forward, and
Right.
and like I enjoy it. I love it. And on top of that, it's a necessity.
Right.
Because the way my mind often works is if I don't do this, then this won't happen.
Right.
Like,
right. Yeah.
There's various forms of manifesting.
Right.
And there's the positive way.
Right.
And then there's the way of if I don't do this, it won't happen.
Right.
And that is just as potent.
Yeah. And so you've really went in deep on the art side that keeps you working and working and creating and working and working. And that's on top of the fact that if it's your business, you need to keep working because it's your monetary overhead that pays the bills, that feeds your family, that keeps things stable. So as an entrepreneur, as a self-employed person, that challenge of how do you tune out, how do you get that peace that the person who's bagging groceries at Trader Joe's, just greeting people and can leave work, can have. And you know, I've often suggested to some artists, like, dude, you should just get a job.
Word.
And just make music or art on the side and have it be emancipated, because the way you're doing it, your relationship with your art is strained.
Yeah.
You know, like
I've
a
seen
part-time
so much-
job can go a long way if your art is, because it's, you know, like it's tricky. So with that, we're gonna go into a song that me and Drez did. It's called Overtime. It's one of my songs. Drez did the cuts. Then we're gonna get back in the second half of this podcast and go in. We got more to talk about. So much to talk about, so little time. Art to Empire. DJ Drez.
Yeah. Sometimes you gotta put in overtime work. 10,000 hours or more. Yeah. Don't touch the dial or turn the volume down. Maximum velocity, it's got to be banging now. Booming out your speakers, it's the sound of the Zekas. Leaders of the new school, defeaters of the wannabe elitists. Defeatist mentality, living fatality, casualty of war without ever being deployed. We lost the war without ever fighting a battle. Just babble, rhetoric, cattle, man, they waiting to be herded. Just take a stand, I'ma supply the demand without the grandstand. And my voice will be that helping hand. Each one, teach one, reach one, inspire one or two. Channeling ancient spirits, uplift the transcribe for you. And I, as I play the medium, conductor of sorts. This life we lead, no spectators for. Have to activate, act like, mobilize, motivated, synergize, driven individuals. It's overtime. Your life relieves, no spectator sport. The job's not done until the job's well done. Always I put in overtime work. The job's not done until the job's well done. Overtime time. Sometimes I find it hard not to second guess. Life's a full press. Gotta rise above the stress. Be accountable and counted for. Speak your mind, lead the blind, make it clear. Raise your voice so the deaf can hear. Throw your pebble in the lake, make the ripples start. Cause and effect, call and response. Let's ring it along. The time is now. We can't procrastinate, cause if we don't act now, we might as well have sealed our fate. Being from the Golden State, runs in my DNA. Warriors come out and play, roaring out like Golden Gate Bridge. Know the legend live, place to give love. Time and space, not to waste in the place. Come on, give it up. Sometimes faith is all you have to keep it straight. So much temptation in them streets, all that forbidden fruit. But short-term gains can stifle your aim is trained. If you choose to deceive the ones who believe in you. So I just keep it moving, even if that means the long road uneven, unpaved with all the potholes. I got soul, solid gold, dedication, soul out with the old, bringing a new rebirth and soul control. It's overtime. The life leads no spectator sport. Yeah. The job's not done until the job's well done. Always I put in overtime work. Overtime time. The job's not done until the job's well done. It's overtime. Always I put in overtime work. It's overtime. Always I put in overtime work. It's overtime. Always I put in overtime. Overtime. Always I put in overtime work. It's overtime. Always I put in overtime work.